Initiating moisture.
Seeing Midsommar was a genuine waste of time, and it actually sucks saying that because Hereditary is what I consider one of the best horror movies of the last decade, and this is a movie from the same visionary that brought us that. But Midsommar is just a fucking stinker. It from start to finish, it's just bad. The best parts of this movie are the cinematography, which is absolutely spectacular. The cinematography is superb, and the acting. All of the characters are really well portrayed, and I actually cared about the majority of the cast. Those are the only two good things about this movie. Everything else just doesn't land. It tries to tackle themes of like grief and relationships. However, in terms of grief, the grief portion happens in the first 20 minutes and then is forgotten immediately. It's not really woven throughout the plot, at least not effectively. It just really misses on all of the themes it goes for, and that's not even that big of a deal in the grand scheme of this movie in terms of its problems because everything else fucking sucks too about it. The movie is it's around 2.5 hours, and I'd say at least an hour and a half of that runtime is spent either sitting down, standing still, or walking in slow motion. That is the majority of every single scene in this movie. It is unbearably slow, and I'm fine with slow movies. I love the tension building shit, but in this movie, the majority of the scenes are awkwardly sitting around a table waiting for someone to eat. So you have all these characters just sitting there looking at each other, looking back and forth, or looking blankly. And as an audience member, it's there to try and build tension, like, oh, what's going to happen? When's the tension going to break? What's going to happen? And then nothing happens. That's the big surprise. Nothing happens. That's the payoff. It just fucking dragged out. And this movie's marketed as a horror movie, and that's a criminal offense. This is not a horror movie, nor does it want to be in any part. When it tries to do something that even looks like it's inspired by horror, it's done off screen. Everything that could even be misconstrued as an attempt to unnerve you or be disturbing is done off camera. What this movie does do, and I'm going to give away this scene, I hope it's not going to be considered a spoiler. What this movie does do is make you laugh at how bad its attempts at unnerving you are. The last 30 minutes, maybe even 40 minutes, no exaggeration, were spent in tears of laughter from my audience at the movie theater. I was laughing pretty fucking hard too. Let me paint the scene for you, a scene from the last 30 or 40 minutes. There's two people having sex. In front of them, standing around them in like a fucking football huddle going over plays, are naked women chanting. It's an a cappella of sex as two people fuck on the floor. And as they're having sex, the a cappella turns from singing and chanting into an up-close and personal singing into the man's face as he's fucking the girl. Once that's over, they then begin moaning in different harmonies, a moaning a cappella. When that's done, one of the women starts pushing his ass cheeks so he gets deeper in the girl's vagina. And this scene goes on for no joke at least 10 minutes of uninterrupted just goofiness. And I believe it's there to make it like an unnerving thing, like, oh man, this is the big payoff. This is the crazy shit that's going on. Look how crazy this cult is. How disturbing. But what actually happens is just a really comedic 10 minutes that you're gonna spend either smiling or just feeling really embarrassed. I felt fucking embarrassed watching this movie a lot of the time. And the second that scene's over, it goes into another goofy scene where the dude's running around naked with his penis flopping everywhere like the pendulum in a grandfather clock, and then he runs into a barn and sees something spooky. And then, it goes from there, just stays bad. The whole movie just doesn't land. Nothing in this movie works at all. The cult shit, I love the concept, and I like what the movie, I think I understand what the movie wanted to accomplish, but it doesn't even come close. You get like this pseudo-comedy, boring piece of shit that in no aspects succeeds in where it needed to or wanted to. Another thing I can compliment though is the sound. I really appreciated the sound when it wasn't just moaning. I appreciated that. That worked pretty well. But again, there's just not very many positives I can give to this movie. It is so boring. Everything drags so long. You're waiting for something, anything at all, even remotely interesting to happen, and it never does. But then you get like 30 or 40 minutes of goofs and giggles, so I guess that's something. But man, it's just not good. It's not even like a deep movie either. There's really, like, all of the metaphors and symbolism it wants to hit pretty much hit you over the head with it. There's nothing too deep about it that you could pick apart and really digest and come up with your own fan theories, because you're going to pretty much get it, I think, for the most part, as a general audience member. It's not really a thinker, it's just a straight fucking stinker. It's just not a good movie, and I'm so disappointed, which is why I'm ripping into it kind of hard, because Hereditary was fantastic. It was a great movie until the last 10 minutes where I felt it kind of fell flat. But really, as a whole, the movie was fantastic, and I think it's a little unfair to compare works, even if it's from the same visionary. But in this case, I can't help but draw the comparisons because it has a lot of the same fun cinematography Hereditary had. It had a lot of the great performances that you got in Hereditary, and it just doesn't even come close to even being in the same ballpark as that movie. It's just bad. It bafflingly bad. Like, even like from, if you can pick out plot holes too. Like, the narrative doesn't work. Like, a traumatic thing happens to the main character in the beginning, and then that's the end of it. Completely forgets that ever happens. At no point is it ever really brought up throughout the rest of the movie. Like, it's just so much wrong with this movie. I wouldn't recommend it at all. It's a genuine waste of time. Plugging this shit into the moist meter, I'm giving Midsommar a 25%. I like the creative cinematography. I like that it's not just standard, boring shots. It's framed beautifully. I also really enjoyed the characters, the performances from the actors. Those were second to none. And the sound department kind of killed it as well. But the movie as a whole piece, a whole product, is just not good. It's like offensively not good if you're a fan of Hereditary. And that's unfortunate, but that's what it is. Not really worth seeing. That's it. So yeah.